So figure out what is about the middle of your card. And your first step will be to do the hill that goes down this way, and then another hill that comes kind of like this. So it depends on where you're looking at Mount Baker from. So I just did it in pencil, which is really hard to see on the video. So I'm gonna go back over. You guys will be doing it in pencil, but I will be doing it with pen so that people on the video can see it more clearly. So you're gonna go and you're gonna do a slanty line going this direction, okay? And another one just gently coming up over there. And that's about halfway. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, and then you are going to create the foreground, which is just a line for the fields, okay? So very simple foreground, all right? Then the mountain itself, it always looks the same in my imagination. It tilts up like this, and then it comes down. There's another bump like that, and then we have a little bit of a drag out, all right? So that's kind of the way, those are the basic forms of Mount Baker. And from there, we get to do the fun stuff, which is painting. So, okay, so now that we have drawn our picture, and the very important thing that was done off camera was to put your name on the bottom so we know whose these are, because they will be going on the drying rack to dry for a little bit. We are going to do the watercoloring. So for this, you're going to need paintbrushes and a cup of water. We're going to need some paper towel and your paint palette. So that will be coming to you. I've got the fancy paint palette because, you know, I'm the teacher, but you guys are having something similar. You're going to be sharing amongst 3 or 4 people, maybe a few, maybe more like 4 people. And you just have to be patient, you have to be kind, and you have to just take your turn. So the first thing with watercolor is when you're doing sky, you might notice that the sky is a little bit of a blue up here and a little pinkish over here. Looks a little bit tie-dye, which is really pretty. The way that we get this effect is you take your brush and you're gonna paint with water first. Literally nothing on your brush except for water. So you dip it into the water. So this is me here, dipping it into the water. Okay, and you'll see it's just plain old water. There's nothing in it yet. And you're gonna go across your painting and you're gonna put a little bit of water. Now, and this is not actual watercolor paper. It's just nice thick tag. When you do it with actual watercolor paper, you won't get any wrinkling. We'll get a smidge of wrinkling on this, but that's okay. So I'm literally going across my whole paper with water. And you'll notice I was really careful not to get the water on the mountain because watercolor does a really cool thing. So this is me painting with water, and it's a little hard to see. You just kind of have to hope for the best. Some of the bigger brushes, it'll be a little bit easier. If you've got a smaller brush, it just takes a little bit longer, but that's a-okay. So this is me painting with water, all right? And then I go into my palette and I start looking for the colors that I want in my sky. And you get to have some choice in this. You can be having a sky that is maybe at the end of the day and you want to do peaches and yellows. Maybe you want to have a sky like this one in here. This is just kind of midday where you've got the blues and the pinks. So I'm gonna go in and find a blue that I like. There's like a tealy greeny blue that I always like. There's a navy blue. And I'm gonna take a little bit of color and I'm gonna put it on just a little bit. But because there's water on here already, it's gonna go on nice and watery, which is actually a really pretty look. So I take some of the color and I'm gonna do this. And you see how it kind of flows around in a nice kind of way? And then, so I keep doing that for a little while until I've got a whole bunch of color. And if it goes down too bright, more bright than I'd like, I just go ahead and I take some of it off. It's easy to do. You just add more water and it'll like smooth it out. Okay. And then once I've got the amount of blue that I think I want, then I might go in with some of my pink. All right, and it doesn't have to be perfect because you're gonna see the cool thing that happens later. So now I'm gonna take, and if you wanna make some pink, you're gonna need to take some red. And some of you have pink in your palette, but if you don't, what other color are you gonna need? White. So you're gonna take some white and some red, and then like this, and this is gonna I'm gonna see how it looks, and if I don't love the color when I do it, I can always add more pink or more red. And do like this. Okay, now so far you're like, wow, this doesn't totally look like the one that you have done yet before, Mrs. Shrinkiewski. But guess wait, yeah, there's some tipping. The kids who have done this before, and I want to add just a little bit of deeper blue, just because I just want to, a little bit of a deeper blue over here. Okay, then you can do this. You get to tip this way, gently, and you get to tip this way, gently, and it's like it's raining. And do you see where I didn't paint the water?
It's making a border.
Yeah, it's making a border for you. So it's just a gentle tip this way, a gentle tip this way. You can go a gentle tip that way, a little bit. And now it looks really cool and tie-dye. And it actually looks even better. Can somebody back there turn the light off for me for a second? We'll get a closer view of what's going on. So that's the first part. You get to tip the painting, and you can work with that for a little bit. Like here, I'm like, oh, I like a little bit more. I can add just a little bit more over here of this nice blue, and maybe just a little bit more pink, and add it until you get what you want. And then you can tip again, and just till it's all just exactly how you want it. So that's really fun. That's why watercolor is a really neat tool. Okay, so that's pretty good, not bad. All right, the next step after you do that is going to be doing the shadows on the mountain. So shadows on the mountain should be blue because that's what it looks like when you have snow. Yeah, exactly. So for the shadows on the mountain, there you'll go in with one of your blues, one of the blues of the sky. Okay, there's a tealy blue actually that's really pretty here, and you're gonna make this nice and watery too. But did I paint in water in this one? I didn't, okay? The reason why is we do not want to paint the mountain with water is because we want this border to remain, okay? So, am I gonna paint the mountain with water? Everybody say no. But I am going to make some shadows. So the shadow kind of comes across here. It goes up here a little bit. We get another shadow that goes like that, okay? And I just can go back in and get some more blue if I need it. And I'm going to paint some more shadow. I'm actually glad I'm using one of the smaller brushes because this painting's much easier with a larger brush, but I don't have so many of these, so I'm forcing myself to use a smaller brush, so my work is kind of like yours with a lot of the smaller brushes. All right, so here, I'm going to paint here. We've got some shadows that come across here and across this way. Going up that way. You can't really go wrong with your shadows, okay? So if you're like, oh, it's not exactly what Mrs. S has, you can't go wrong. You're just making places where the sun is not shining on the snow, okay? So, and then once again, and this we're not going to tip so much. So you don't need to tip this one as much. All right. Does that make sense so far?
Yep.
Okay. Now this is where the we're gonna be changing the color a little bit. You don't need to. For the other nice thing about this painting is you don't really need to change your water like entirely. All of these colors complement each other. Okay. So now we're gonna go in and you're gonna take some more blue and you're gonna try for a deeper color this time. So you're gonna take a bit more paint and a little less water, because this is getting closer to us, and we are gonna get the hillsides. Now, the hillsides are covered in trees, aren't they? Yeah, but are they usually green? Or when you see off in the distance, are they blue? Yeah, the funny part about looking off in the distance is that it's a bluey green. So we're gonna go in with a bluey green here. Okay, and I am going to make it quite watery. And then go over top with my bluey green. Okay, this one needs a bit more green. Go across. And I'm using an entirely different palette than the last time, and it's still lovely. Like, it's so fun to do this many times with many different types of paint so you can see what happens. So, and I can add a bit more of like an actual green if I want to, because I do. And add a little bit of an actual green in here to make it nice and watery. actual green. Play around with it. Okay. So, once I've done that, what do you think I can do with it? I can do a little bit of tipping. So I tip here, right? A little bit of tipping, and I can tip here, a little bit of tipping, I can tip there. So now, paper towel is important in this process as well, because I might be looking and be like, this here is just a little bit too much paint, and I can take my paper towel and I can just soak some of it up. I just do a little dip like that, and I'm like, ooh, too much paint. I'm gonna just take some of that off. It's called blotting. Okay, I can take some of that paint off if it's kind of too much for what I want. And actually, I can also grab some of the paint because I like too much here and I want it there. All right, so then I can blot and I can tilt. Yeah. And then finally, the last bit is to create a green foreground. So you take your green, the actually green this time, because it's getting closer to us so we can actually see the green, and we can create a field. Okay, so when you're finished, you can go over your name, you can create a field. So that's pretty much the basics of this painting. And then after it's dry, that is when we come in with doing the fine lining, because it is much, there's a reason to come in after it's dry. Not only does it not leak or leach, but it also, you'll get to see some of the places where you can outline. All right, so tilt a little bit, gorgeous, tilt a little bit, lovely. And then it is going to go on the drying rack. So we are at the point now where the painting has been finished and you've taken it off the drying rack, and it is time to do the outlining. So I have done a fair bit of outlining on this painting already, just so you can start to see what it transforms into, but I'm going to show you what you're going to be looking for your outline. So the thing with the outlining is you are looking for interesting little pockets that are around the contours of your painting. So what I mean by that is, let's take a look at this shadow here right at the right on the mountain. You can see that you've got this edge which has not yet been outlined, so you go ahead and you outline it all the way around, nice firm line, just following the edge like that, and then you can go this way, this way, this way, all the way around till you get to the outside. So that's just kind of a nice smooth contour, you know, lovely and pretty. Let's go over here to this contour in the sky. So we've got a few little like just natural blips that occur, and I can make those into what maybe looks a little bit like clouds. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to go around that blip there and that little white piece, and maybe even I've got a little bit of a, I don't know, a puffy sort of thing happening here with where the pink is meeting the blue. So I'm gonna go around and make that quite lovely, and then I'm just following the line out. So I literally was following the line of paint where it changed, and it's sort of looking a little bit like there's cloud action happening in the sky. If you look over here, I've already done the outline of the hill itself, but there's still a little bit of overbleed with the paint, and this is really neat to just do a little outline of that too. So now it looks like I might have another valley, or over here I have another little overbleed, or I guess this was an underbleed, it didn't go in there, and I just do a little line there. So you don't have to do every single variation that you see, but you can do a few of them. And you can see down here at the bottom I've made a few little lines, and maybe it looks a little bit like there's a lake or something like that happening. So if you do the what are called contour lines in black Sharpie, it looks really neat. I really like this effect, and it just kind of takes your work and makes sure that it is polished up. And then the last thing you can do, your name is probably still in pencil, so you'd want to go over top of your name in Sharpie so that it pops, and that the person or persons, family members that you're giving this card to, know who it's coming from.